This is EICMA 2024, the big show in Milan, the world's biggest motorcycle show. This is where we're going to see every new bike for 2025. So lock the doors, make a cup of tea, settle down for an hour, because this is going to be epic. Let's go inside and check it out. It's a big, exciting year for Aprilia in 2025. Lots of exciting new models, from superbikes to tourers to entry-level A2 bikes. But the bike that's got my attention first is the new RS V4 and RS V4 Factory. So the Factory comes with the new Smart Öhlins 2.0 semi-active suspension. We've also got the new Brembo high pure calipers, and it's lighter and more efficient than the Stylema items. Power is up to 220 horsepower instead of 217, so it's a little tweak in power. Most of that is down to now Euro 5 obligations. Big 52mm throttle bodies. The track pack is now standard on the Factory with new slide control, and we've got improved aerodynamics. Hopefully we'll get on this bike probably around February, March next year is the plan, and I'll bring you that exclusive test at 1000 PS. Still on the Aprilia stand, and the new Tuono has definitely caught my eye. I've always liked the V4 Tuono, but there's big improvements for 2025. So first of all, obviously we've got the new looks and we've got the new design, and we've got these new big winglets that they claim is 2.5 kilograms of downforce at 250 kilometers an hour. The new 5-inch TFT clocks, and we've also gone up in capacity. So we've gone from 1077 to 1099 in cc in capacity, which means we've got 180 horsepower now of the new Tuono. The previous Tuono was starting a little bit in terms of peak power compared to the competition, but with 180 horsepower, we're back up online now. This is the Factory version, so we've got the new Smart Öhlins suspension, which is the 2.0, so all semi-active Öhlins suspension, new looks, new design. We should be riding this bike again early 2025. We'll be riding we'll be riding the standard version and the Factory version early 2025. Looking forward to riding both. Okay, so obviously the big bikes and the showcase bikes at Aprilia are getting all the headlines. But for me, this is like a bike that Aprilia always should have done. This is based on obviously the RS 457, which I've rode for 1000 PS back in Italy. Really impressed by the bike. It was really usable and torquey. Not what I was expecting. And to put straight bars and make a Tuono version just makes obvious sense. It's got the same power and characteristics as the RS. It's got the same rider ears. So we've got that lean sensitive traction control, lean sensitive ABS, multiple rider modes, and that rear clear, easy to use dash. It'd be interesting when we get to ride this bike, because I think it makes perfect sense using the RS 457 as a platform and turning it into a Tuono. Hopefully we'll throw a leg over this in early 2025. So this is a bike that really gets my interest. This is the RS 660, which has been a hugely popular bike for Aprilia. I actually raced one of these at the Northwest last year, so it's a bike that I really hold to my heart. But for this year, there's going to be two versions, the standard and the Factory version. We've got the new aerodynamics, we've got the new winglets. They've slightly increased the horsepower as well, so we're up to 105 horsepower. With the Factory version, we've obviously got Öhlins suspension as well, and there's been slight tweaks and modifications to the fueling, to the throttle bodies, all to make it Euro 5. But the big talking point for most people is going to be the looks, the winglets, and we're now at 105 horsepower. This is a bike I can't wait to ride. Hopefully we're going to be at a beautiful Italian track, because this bike is crying out for some track time. So I've already looked at the new RS V4 Factory, but this is the standard RSV. Both get the same engine, so we've got that improvement in power, so up to a 220 horsepower, which puts it really in the battle with the competition from Italy, Germany and Japan. This is the standard version, so you get fully adjustable suspension, but it's manually adjustable suspension made by Sachs. It's not the semi-active CEO2 system from Öhlins that you get on the Factory. The Factory also gets an additional track mode that this doesn't get. But what do you think of the new colours? That's probably going to be the big question point. I'm a little unsure of the colours, but I do like the new aerodynamics, the new look, and the new big winglets. This is the new Aprilia Touareg Rally, inspired by the Africa Eco race that Aprilia actually won in 2024. So obviously it's a Touareg, but kind of beefed up and energized. So this is more catered for off-road riding. So we've got longer, taller, more travel suspension, longer, higher bars. We've got way more crash protection. You can tell that the new front mud guard is much higher. That gives you much more ground clearance to get rid of all that mud and debris that's going to be thrown at it. It's really been designed to attack and be beaten off-road. The suspension has obviously been tweaked. We've got more suspension travel. We've got a hard, firmer enduro seat. This hasn't been designed for comfort and long-distance travel adventure riding. This has been designed to really smash it off-road, inspired by the African race-winning victory. So the slight disadvantage of obviously having a more catered off-road bike is the tall seat height. This is 913mm standard, which is going to make it a little bit tiptoey for riders like me, but it is lighter than the standard bike because this has been catered just to take on that off-road terrain. So the standard bike is 204 kilograms, this bike is 199 kilograms. The engine remains that familiar parallel twin, but obviously now tweaked for Euro 5+. So we're still with Aprilia, and the big talking point is Euro 5+. So Aprilia has had to instigate all those Euro 5 emissions on all their 125 range. So the new SX125 obviously gets the new Euro 5+ engine. But whilst they've been doing that, they've given it a lovely cosmetic tweak, and we've got new full colour TFT clocks. When we go from the SX to the RX, obviously they're sharing the same platform, so it's a new Euro 5 engine and similar kind of cosmetics and tweaks to the looks. And we've also got the full colour TFT dash. The RS125, which is really familiar and really popular, is obviously again Euro 5+, and again there's a few cosmetic tweaks around the exhaust and around those foot pegs. So we jumped from Aprilia to Moto Guzzi and jumped on the new V7, which gets a little increase in power, which is mainly down to those new Euro 5 emissions. This is the racer version, so for the first time on a V7, we get upside down forks. But what also we get, which you can't see, is an integrated IMU. So for the first time on the V7, we're going to get lean sensitive ABS and lean sensitive traction control. But that's only going to be on the sport version. There are other versions which will just have conventional ABS and conventional traction control. But the racer kind of steps up now. It's a little bit different to the other models because we've got those improved rider aids, we've got the improved braking, and we've got the improved upside down front forks. Staying with Moto Guzzi, this is the new V100 Mandello. Now we rode this bike, I believe it was last year, straight out the factory and had a beautiful ride on this bike. It was a massive step for Moto Guzzi. This was a big transformation. But there was one area this bike was slightly lacking when you compared it to the competition. And that was the new radar technology. But that's been resolved for 2025 because we've got new front radar and rear radar technology. So we've got adaptive cruise control, we've got the blind spot detection, we've got the collision warning, and we've got a clever little system that keeps you in the correct lane and gives you some pre-warning. There's a slight tweak to the aerodynamics, but the big talking point for 2025 is the adaptation of the new radar technology for this beautiful looking V100 from Moto Guzzi. Whilst we're here with Moto Guzzi, we had to take the opportunity to have a look at the new Stelvio Tribute. So this is to celebrate 200 years of the Stelvio Pass, which was opened in 1825. So it's going to be a limited edition run of the just unique paint scheme. But also with this bike, you'll have noticed that it's got the radar technology, centre stand, and a few optional extras as standard. But for me, it's all about the paint scheme and celebrating that Stelvio Pass anniversary. Hopefully, the one and one and one and one will all add up together and we can ride this bike at the Stelvio Pass to celebrate that unique anniversary. So we just jumped over to Vespa to check out their new GTS range. So essentially what they've done to get around Euro 5 is gone from 278 capacity to 310 capacity. So you've got a bigger capacity engine, you've got a slight increase in power and torque, but more importantly, it's now Euro 5 compliant. The rest of the bike is 99% the same as it was previously. It's just got that bigger engine, more performance, and Euro 5. I think they're beautiful looking bikes. I think they've got loads of character despite having modern technology like traction control and ABS. I rode the now old bike around Rome for a day on the world launch and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a bike that you kind of want in the back of your garage for that little commute around town. But it'd be interesting to see what that new engine is like in that chassis when we get to ride the bike in early 2025. We've moved over to the Honda stand, and what makes EICMA so unique is that you see bikes for the very, very first time. And this is the new CB350S. It's an A2 entry-level, air-cooled, 348 single-cylinder, kind of custom retro bike, all new from Honda. First impressions, I kind of like it. And this is a genuinely first time I've seen it. It's the First time I saw this bike was like 40 seconds ago, and I really like the looks of the bike. 178 kilograms, fully fueled. We're quoting around 21 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, 29 Newton meters of torque at 3,000 RPM. We're going to have some traction control. We've got some beautiful, nice little clocks with a big analog speedo, real retro finish, nice air-cooled, big fins. It kind of looks like something from the 70s or early 80s. Prices haven't been set yet, so it'll be interesting to see where the bike is priced. But as a bit of a surprise for the show, this is definitely one. It's not something we was expecting from Honda, but in the flesh, it's very cool. So this is the new CB750 Hornet from Honda. Now it's mainly cosmetic tweaks and revisions to the suspension. We've got this new twin headlight and a newly designed frontal area. And the reason for that is because the CB750 Hornet gets a big brother with the similar looks. So let's go look at the eagerly priced and highly anticipated Big 1000. So this is the big brother. This is the CB1000 Hornet, essentially using a 2017 Honda Fireblade engine. The big talking point before we get onto any of the technical details is price. In the UK, the base bike is going to be under £9,000. There's going to be a base bike and an SP model. We've already done a video on this bike at 1000 PS. I sat on the sofa review, so if you want more information, click on the link below. But to give you a little bit of an overview, 152 horsepower from that old Fireblade engine, or 157 horsepower if you go for the SP, 104 or 107 Newton meters of torque, again depending on which version you go for. They both have the same frame, but you've got big piston shower upside down forks on the standard model, Öhlins on the SP, and obviously braking is different. So we've gone for the SW-Motech Brembo braking system when we go to the SP. We'll obviously have a plethora of ride arrays like wheelie control and traction control, engine brake strategies, but they're not going to be lean sensitive, which I guess is why they can afford to push this bike out for under £9,000. But 152 horsepower, fully adjustable, shower suspended, naked bike with an old Fireblade engine for under £9,000, that is going to fly off the shelves. Staying with Honda, we've got the new XL750 Transalp. We've got revisions to the front end with that new headlight LED. We've got new clocks with more new connectivity, and the suspension has been revised. So before the Transalp was really set for comfort and quite soft, Honda tell us now it's a little bit sportier, but proof is in the pudding. When we get to ride the bike, we'll let you know. But it'll be an interesting one to see if they've gone too far in terms of performance, or if it's still plush and as comfort as it always was. So we're still over at the Honda stand and we're looking at the Rebel range, which is the 500 and the 1100. Essentially what Honda have done have given us new look and new styling with new colours, but have also changed the ergonomics a little bit to make the bike more comfortable. The big talking point, I guess, aside from the new clocks, is on the 1100 we've got the big TFT clocks, and for the first time we've got the DCT. So no clutch lever, change the gears with a paddle lever, and also we've got 3 different models on the 1100. So different variants of different spec, depending if you want saddlebags, if you want any protection, depending on what specification you need. But for the first time on the Rebel, we've got DCT. We're with Honda on the NT 1100, which has seen a significant upgrade for 2025. A bike that, if you click on our channel, you'll see that we've already had a play around on. So let's give you a quick overview of the new bike for 2025. So it's 1100cc, twin cylinder, torque has increased to 112 Newton meters. They've done that by changing the intake and the exhaust system. Power remains at 102, but I guess the big talking point is that we've now got lean dependent systems like traction control, ABS and wheelie. The ES version gets the shower suspension, we've got an improved windshield, we've got improved pannier capacity. It's all round a significant improvement for the popular NT 1100. But do check out our social media channels and our YouTube channels for more details on the Honda NT 1100. So a bike that's really popular that sometimes go underneath the radar is the NC 750X, a really popular bike in the UK, and I guess some of that is down to its frugal engine and huge storage space for a crash helmet where you'd normally find a fuel tank. But for 2025, Honda have updated the NC 750X. We've got the new twin discs up front, so improved braking. We've got a new TFT display, 5-inch with connectivity. The DCT has been revised to enable it to be a little bit smoother at low speeds around town, where I guess this is where this bike is made. And interestingly, the plastics now are all made from this bio-based material plastic, which is all new for Honda for 2025. Be interesting when we get to ride the bike. It's one of those bikes that kind of goes underneath the radar, but it's one of those bikes that you'll love and enjoy when you're commuting around town. So this is the new Honda 300L, and there's also going to be a 300 Rally. Both bikes I've spent a lot of time on at the ABR Festival with Honda and thoroughly enjoyed. For 2025, Honda have revised the suspension. So they've basically firmed it up a little bit, make it less soft than it used to be. It was really, really soft before, and Honda have told us it's a little less soft than previously, so hopefully it'll be a little bit sportier and it might improve that off-road presence. They've tried to take the heat away from the engine with better cooling, and have also given us a little USB port as standard for 2025. Hopefully we'll get to ride this and the Rally in early 25, put it through its paces off-road and really compare the differences between the two models. Behind me is the new XADV 750 scooter from Honda. Yes, that is a scooter, but it is fitted with the full travel pack, so that's got the full accessories with it. We've already tested this bike at 1000 PS, so if you want more information on the bike, click below and hopefully that will take you straight to the test, because we've already tested the updated and facelifted bike for 2025. New electric scooter from Honda. It's A1 compliant, 2 big battery packs underneath the seat, full TFT connectivity, full colour display, neat looking scooter that just complements Honda's new scooter range, which consists of a new 125, a new 350 and a new 750. Moving on from Honda's new electric scooter to something more conventional and petrol powered. This is the new 350. So it's still produced here in Italy, interesting enough, with a new design which includes that new twin headlight. In the storage under the seat, we've got a nice little light that makes it easier at dark for putting storage underneath there. New design. And behind me is the really popular PCX 125, which has been significantly updated for 2025 with a new rear disc, new TFT clocks and new styling. Moved across to the scooter range with Honda to the Forza 125, 350 and the 750. Essentially facelifts for many of these models, but the 350 and the 750 also get significant upgrades. So we've got cruise control comes as standard, adjustable screen, new upholstery on the seat, new TFT clocks and completely new styling on all 3 models from the 125 to the 350 and the 750. This is the ADV 350 from Honda that has the same engine as the SH350. Obviously Honda have made both engines Euro 5 Plus compliant, so that means a slight revision to the fueling and the changes, but that's had no change to the performance in power in terms of torque. Little cosmetic changes. We can also change the preload on the rear. We've got a light for underneath the seat and a new full connectivity TFT clocks on the ADV 350. So we've moved over to the Super Duke GT. What a phenomenal bike this is going to be. 190 horsepower at 10,000 RPM and 145 Newton meters at 8,000 RPM. And all that with panniers and semi-active suspension. This is supposed to be a comfortable touring bike with 190 horsepower. So we've got a new rear subframe, updated front, we've got the adjustable screen, LED elements, cornering lights as standard. Fuel capacity has come down to 19.5 litres, but fully fueled is a weight of 228 kilograms, which is 5 kilograms lighter than before. As you'd expect, because it's KTM, it's WP suspension with 140mm of travel at the front, 160 at the rear, and that's all semi-active. New shock linkage, new Brembo style hammer brakes up front, adaptive cruise control, new ABS modes, and this massive 8.8-inch TFT clocks that we've seen on the 990 Duke R. There's going to be new custom modes, quick shifter, heated grips are optional. It's a big list of what's going to happen to the new Super Duke GT. Now it's 1390 and now it's got 190 horsepower. I don't think sports touring is ever going to be this much fun, and I can't wait to ride this bike, which hopefully KTM will put me on the invite list for early next year. When I'm over here at the KTM stand, I feel like a kid in a sweet store, because there's another bike that I can't wait to ride. This is the all-new 390 Adventure R. We've had the KTM 390 before, but this is a KTM 390 on steroids. This is ready for proper off-road use. So we've got a 21-inch front, 18-inch rear, big, long travel suspension with 230mm, fully adjustable from WP, as you would expect. It's still the 390 platform. It's still 398cc, it's still A2 compliant, but now we've just got more rider modes, more suspension, more travel, more ruggedness. This is ready to hit the off-road hard. And because it's made by KTM, you know it's going to work off-road. We're expecting this in early 2025. I don't know where the launch is going to be. Hopefully it'll be somewhere exotic and beautiful, because I think this is a really cool little bike that's going to really cut it off-road. It appears that SW-Moto is making a little bit of a comeback, because KTM have got two new models, the 390 and the 125. Essentially, it's a KTM 390 Duke in SW-Moto bodywork with SW-Moto wheels. Should be fun, agile and exciting to ride. And we've also got a 125 version, which again is based on the 125 Duke, but in a SW-Moto chassis. So we've got SW-Moto wheels, 17-inch grippy tyres, WP suspension, which will be adjustable, all in a 125 platform. Still with KTM, but something a little bit different, not conventional combustion. This is an all-new Freeride for 2025, all built in-house by KTM. So, what we're talking, 11 kilowatt power rated or 25.8 HP at peak power with 37 Newton meters of torque. Top speed, they claim, is 95 kilometers. Charging time, you're looking at 8 hours or 1.5 hours, depending on how quickly you recharge. As you'd expect from KTM, WP suspension front and back. Total weight is just 113 kilograms. To be honest, I've not ridden the previous pre-ride. It's something that I wanted to ride but just never had the time. So now we've got a new model for 2025. It's just giving me the excuse to try the electric off-road version. Staying with KTM, we're now with the 390 Enduro R and the 125 Enduro R. Like the 390 SW-Moto and the 125 SW-Moto that we looked at previously, they share the same 390 engine as the 390 Duke and the 125 engine as the 125 Duke. But now we're obviously in an Enduro chassis with Enduro suspension and Enduro looks and style. TFT clocks, as you'd expect, WP suspension, fully adjustable, but now we've got more off-road biased tyres, spoked wheels rather than the SW-Moto tyres, and grippy road rubber that we have on the SW-Motos. Both bikes are completely new for 2025, as like the 125 and the 390 SW-Moto. If a bike ever looked like it was going a million miles an hour when it was stood still, this has got to be one of them. Now, I've already ridden the 890 version of this in Portimao, and I was so impressed by the track-only version of this bike. I couldn't wait to see the 990. I saw it in a kind of cannibalized, kind of black and white video and imagery, but this is the first time I've seen it in the finished flesh with all these optional extras, and I think it absolutely looks stunning. In terms of what we've got is a 947 parallel twin, 130 horsepower, 8-valve double overhead cam, 76 foot-pounds of torque, 6-speed, obviously going to be laden in rider aids like cornering ABS, cornering traction control, multiple rider modes, full WP suspension front and rear with high and low speed compression, fully adjustable as you would expect, Brembo 4-piston radial stoppers up the front. It is a beautiful looking bike, but it's not only going to be a track bike like the limited edition 8 version. This is being designed for the road. It's been designed to be used both on the road and on the track. The ergonomics and the feel of it feels quite spacious and quite big. This is not a little pocket rocket bike. This is KTM back in the sports bike market. So this is the big KTM 1390 Adventure, which replaces the old 1290 that I actually had and enjoyed for about 6 months a few years ago. This is the big 1350 V-twin, 173 horsepower super adventure touring bike. And now it's 173 horsepower. It's got the top trumps card when it comes to big adventure bike. If you want the most power, this is the one to have. It'll be equipped with the latest WP semi-active suspension with 200mm of travel. We've got foot pegs that are a little bit lower by around 8mm if I remember rightly, which should improve the ergonomics. We've now got Dunlop tyres rather than I think they were Mitas before, which personally I didn't favour towards. I much prefer these, so that'll be interesting. Big, massive TFT display, a lot more rider aids, a lot more technology, but the big thing is going to be the power. That big 1350 V-twin, 173 horsepower, that is going to be a phenomenal bike, and we're going to need those rider aids to keep everything in line. Can't wait to ride this both on-road and off-road. It should deliver. So we've jumped from KTM to their sister company, Husqvarna, to jump on the new Vitpillen 801. Now I can tell you quite a lot about this bike because I rode it just last week. We've got an exclusive video going up very shortly. So I rode this bike in the south of France. It essentially shares many of the qualities of the 790 Duke, that parallel twin. But instead of being 95 horsepower like the KTM Duke, it's 105 horsepower. So it's got a little bit more power. We've got multiple rider aids that are all lean sensitive ABS, lean sensitive traction control, and anti-wheelie. If you tick the box for the dynamic mode, you can play around with those rider aids, turn the traction down, turn the anti-wheelie down, or just turn them off entirely. Brake-wise, there's a SW-Moto mode, which basically means you've got brakes on the front, but no back brake, so you can slide it into corners. It's immensely fun, really attractive, individual looking, and very, very unique. The only slight downside, it is a few £1,000s more than the KTM 790 Duke, but you can see where the quality and the looks and the appeal is. You can see where that kind of money's been spent. But if you want something individual, fun, and just enjoyable to ride, then look no further. The Vipilin is the one. Well, we couldn't come to the Italian bike show without having some Italian beauty. And this is the new F3 Competizione, which is absolutely stunning. That's full carbon fibre bodywork, full carbon fibre wheels. It's got the full race kit with a full Akrapovic racing exhaust. It's just 178 kilograms, and they could have produced this in just 300 units. It's around 160 horsepower, if I remember correctly. It is 14 kilograms lighter than the standard bike due to that full carbon fibre bodywork, titanium exhaust. Suspension-wise, full all-ins, fully adjustable, front and rear, as you'd expect. I mean, that is one beautiful looking bike, but it is 34,000 euros. We couldn't leave the MV stand without checking out their new concept bike. I mean, look at that. That is kind of modern meets retro meets beauty. Now, according to MV, they're claiming there is increased comfort and the chassis should exude comfort, although I might disagree with that. If it goes into production, I'm sure it'll be sporty, I'm sure it'll be fun, but in terms of just what a beautiful bike, what a beautiful thing to have in your garage, that is pretty stunning. Something very unique and very different on the BMW stand, something we weren't expecting, a new 450 parallel twin adventure bike. How cool does that look? This is a new F450. So obviously it's still in concept, but we've been told that it's close to production. How close that is, we don't know. But it'll still be A2 compliant. We assume that those won't be the final tyres, it'll be more road bias, but in terms of a completely new bike and a completely new angle from BMW, it's not something we was expecting. It's going to be lightweight, it's going to be fun, it's going to be agile, and it's going in that kind of entry-level adventure fun class that we've already seen some adventure bikes from other manufacturers at the show already. So BMW have given us a bit of a unique opportunity to fire up the new 450 parallel twin. So without any further ado, so we've obviously moved over to the BMW stand and they've gone all out with their inline 4 cylinders. So we've got the new S1000R, M1000R, S1000RR and the M1000RR. So let's start off with the naked S1000, which completely new design, new headlight, complete new tailpiece, new license plate holder, but a lot of that big talk is going to be about the engine. So we're up to 170 horsepower in a naked chassis. That's 5 more than we had previously, and 114 newton meters of torque. The gearing has changed slightly, so there's slightly shorter gearing, and the action on the throttle has changed slightly to give us a more responsive throttle. So we've got more power, more responsive throttle, and shorter gearing, which should lead to an interesting test ride. The new colours for the S1000R, it's a big thumbs up from me. I really like them, but I'd be interested to see what your comments are on the new colours below. So I've obviously jumped from the S1000R to the M1000R. So with the M, we get a significant jump up in power. So we're up to 210 horsepower. But now we've got the quick action throttle, so it just makes it a little bit more responsive. And there's a few little design upgrades to the M version of the 1000R. This is a beautiful looking bike. Love riding the old bike. There's just a few little tweaks to the throttle and a few little design tweaks, but it'll just give me an excuse to ride this bike again. Back with BMW, and now we've jumped to the S1000RR, and there's also going to be a new M1000RR. The last generation of this bike I rode in Almeria, and I've ridden on many tracks, many times. Really impressive bike. But BMW have gone one step further for 2025. Obviously, the big talking point is going to be the focus on these big aerodynamic winglets. So we've got 23.1 kilograms of downforce at 300 kilometers an hour. Power is 210 horsepower on the S, 218 horsepower on the M version. As like on the S and M1000R, we've got this new quick action throttle. We've got a plethora of rider aids and electronics, hopefully keeping us on track. We've got nice, cool little braking ducts as well, which should keep the front brakes cooler and look really trick, look really factory. When we're going to ride this bike, little unsure, but BMW have told me that I'm on the shopping list. I will be at the front, so hopefully I'll get to ride this bike shortly and then get to ride it back to back with the old bike. So I moved over from the S1000RR to the M1000RR. I mean, look at that. That is absolutely stunning. The previous bike, the now old bike I rode in Mugello last year, incredible bike. And to be honest, I didn't think BMW needed to do much to improve such an epic bike, but they have done. The big focus is again on the aerodynamics, on the winglet, and making the bike cut through the air cleaner and smoother. In terms of power, we're up to 218 horsepower at 14,500 RPM. Most of that is down to new titanium valves, higher compression, new throttle bodies. But we've also got new electronics to control all that power, so new slide control and a plethora of rider aids that will keep us on track. As I said previously, the last time I rode the M1000RR was at Mugello for 2 days with BMW's Race Academy with Troy Corser. It was a memorable weekend that was absolutely phenomenal. So fingers crossed they'll invite me back, because if I get 2 days on Mugello with Troy Corser as an instructor, that's going to be epic. This is the Concept R20 from BMW. This is a 2-litre boxer. Each one of those is 1 litre. Can you believe that? It's incredible. So I first saw this bike in Italy when Marcus paraded the bike and showed it for the first time. It's also been at Goodwood up the hill, and it sounds absolutely epic. It's essentially a 2-litre boxer engine in a kind of S1000R chassis dimensions and wheelbase. Hopefully this will go into production. Hopefully it'll look something like this, but I doubt it'll be as loud as this when it goes. Otherwise the guys who do the Euro 5 plus emissions will have heart failure when they hear this one. Obviously Harley-Davidson are here at EICMA, got some really cool bikes and a really cool stand with some retro video games as well. But for me, the highlight is the King of the Baggers race bike. It's incredible that they get that thing to race at the lap times it does. Worth coming round and checking out. So we're now moved over to the Triumph stand, who've got a wide selection of new bikes for 2025. Let's start with the new Speed Twin 1200 and RS. So I'm going to be riding this bike in December. There's going to be 2 versions, just the standard and the RS. So engine is up to 105 horsepower. It was 100 previously, 112 Newton meters of torque. We've got the Marzocchi suspension that's been completely new. We've got Triumph brakes, more comfortable ergonomics. The handlebar position is a little bit higher and a little bit further forward. On the RS, we've got Marzocchi forks, Öhlins rear shock, and the Brembo Stylema brakes. It's going to be a little bit sportier, a little bit more like the Thruxton is what I imagine and what I interpret it will be. But this is the RS with the Brembo brakes. Let's go look at the Triumph standard 1200. So I've looked at the RS. This is the standard Speed Twin 1200. So we've got Triumph branded brakes, less adjustment on the suspension, less radical, probably a little bit more road focused and a little bit comfier. But as we said previously, I'll get to ride both this and the RS in Spain end of December, and we'll get that full review up shortly in December. So keep an eye on all our social media channels if you're interested in both models. So this is the new Speed Twin 900 from Triumph, which I'll actually get to ride in Malaga in about 3 weeks' time. So it's new Marzocchi suspension, narrower rear frame, aluminium swinging arm, slight kind of ergonomics changes just to make it a little bit more comfortable. In terms of engine, power and torque, it's exactly the same as it was, but it'll be obviously now Euro 5 compliant. We've got 2 rider modes, road and rain, but the big thing for me is now it's got lean sensitive cornering ABS and lean sensitive traction control. Cruise control will come as an optional extra, and there'll be obviously a plethora of accessories to really personalize this bike to see how and the way you want to ride. As I said, I'll get to ride this bike in a few weeks' time, and we'll get that review up shortly. So follow us on our social media channels to see the full review in a few weeks' time. The Tiger Sport 800 makes a welcome return for 2025, now with a 798 triple engine, 115 horsepower at 10,750 RPM. We've got 84 Newton meters of torque at 8,500 RPM. 214 kilogram is what the weight they're quoting, with adjustable shower quality suspension. In terms of rider aids, as you'd expect, ABS, traction control, 3 rider modes, a quick shifter, cruise control and connectivity. I think I'll have to double check, but I think the cruise control might be an optional extra. It's going to be priced very competitively in a very price competitive market. In the UK, I think it's just over £10,000. It looks good, it'll sound good, and it feels quality. But all proof will be in the pudding when we actually get to ride the bike early next year. This is the new Trident 660 from Triumph. The previous, now old bike I've ridden many, many times. Thoroughly enjoyable, great engine, great sound, fun, lightweight, and easy to ride. But for 2025, Triumph have given it a little tweak. So we've got more electronics. We've now got cornering traction control, cornering ABS. We've got a quick shifter as standard and cruise control as standard. In terms of handling, we've got shower suspension has been tweaked. We've got the big piston forks now, but power and torque remain the same. Again, we're going to be riding this bike, I believe, in February, March 2025. I really like the old bike and didn't think that Triumph needed to do a dramatic change to improve the bike for 2025. But they just give us more electronics and improve the suspension, which should improve the overall feel of the bike. Triumph have done something a little bit different and produced a limited run of icon models that feature the old Triumph logo that was last seen 100 years ago. It's available on the Scramblers and the Bobber. I think it looks really, really cool. Something that I would definitely want and tick if I was going for one of these retro Triumph models. So we've now moved across to Royal Enfield. We've got several new bikes and updates on their stand. But we'll start with the new Bear 650 that has already been released, that we've already done a release video on and we've already ridden. But let me run through some little facts and details. So it's the air-cooled 650 twin-cylinder engine with 48 horsepower, 19-inch front, 17-inch rear, scrambler style, digital but analog clocks, 216 kilograms, shower suspension, and yeah, quite a mechanical, physical bike. Really looks the part, should sound the part. If you want more details on this bike, go to our YouTube, follow the links, and find the full review. So we just popped over to Royal Enfield. We've got to see the new Flying Flea. And how far? I mean, obviously we've got the prototype behind us now. Are we a million miles away from what we'll see as the end production bike, which I think is 26, you were saying earlier? Yeah, we're looking to get to the market, start producing end of 25, moving into 26, and seeing hopefully by EICMA 26 we should have full production in place. This is pretty representative. So it's a kind of a freeze frame of where the design and development is at the moment. So it's we basically took all of the production data that we're working on, we took a snapshot of that, we tidied some bits up for the show models, but fundamentally this is what we intend to do. So there will be some detail changes, some stuff that perhaps if you're an engineer or a motorcycle designer you'll look at and you go, oh, I noticed that's different. Yeah. But in general they will look and feel like this. And then finally, it is unusual. I can't think of any other production bike, I don't think, with a girder front end or the Springer front end. Yeah, no. Why go for that? Well, I think, again, from a brand like Royal Enfield, our story and our heritage is so important to who we are. Every product we do, we always say, has to have a story, has to be authentic, the design has to be authentic, and it has to be accessible. It has to be something you can ride. And we're losing some of the elements that we've been identified before. As you move from EV from ICE to EV, some of those things change. And so what we wanted to do was amp up some of those other things, really push some of those other things and really make sure that connection was still really strong to the brand. And so the girder front end seemed like a really interesting way to do that. It's novel in the arrangement, so actually it's not exactly like a girder front end would have been back in the day. Yeah. But it works really well. We're very happy with how the chassis dynamics team are developing it, and it works really well. And I think it really does set the bike off and work with the bike visually to give it that kind of new meets old. And that's the whole theme of this bike, is that kind of combination of contemporary, forward thinking, but also
you know, knowing where you're coming from. You've got to know your roots, you've got to understand where you come from, and so that's what this bike is about.
Cool. Thanks for your time, mate. Looking forward to riding it end of next year, early 26.
Yeah, should be good.
Somewhere exotic.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll fall in by parachute.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
So this is the recently launched Classic 650 Twin. Now, Royal Enfield did have a classic single cylinder, but now it's in a twin cylinder formation. It's kind of like Art Deco styling, exercise, but it is a production bike. We've already ridden this bike. There's been a small launch of this bike, and it is in production, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I don't think any other manufacturer can really do this kind of Art Deco look. I don't think any other manufacturer have got this kind of history, but it seems to work on a Royal Enfield, and I'm pleased to moved it from the single to the twin, because this is one lovely looking bike. So we've jumped over to CFMOTO, who appear to be going from strength to strength. This is their new 675 NK, naked version of their 675 SR, which we'll see shortly. Essentially, the three-cylinder 675 platform, 95 horsepower, if I remember rightly off the top of my head, aluminium swinging arm, steel frame, TFT clocks. Should be an interesting bike when we get to ride this bike. It's already been available in Asia and I believe in North America, but when the bike gets to Europe, I think it's going to be a hit. So we couldn't come to the Milan show without visiting Panigale and Ducati, and this is their new V4S that we've already tested in Vallelunga. I got 6 sessions in Vallelunga with a full data recorder so we could test all the sophisticated rider aids. The big talking point, I guess, is the double-sided swinging arm, but Ducati essentially had to do that. Their cards were already played. There's so much power and so much grip these days that the single-sided swinging arm needed so much beefing up to control all that power, we had to go double. And the actual double-sided swinging arm is actually lighter and gives more flex. The chassis has got more flex. The whole bike has got more feeling and more emotion to it. In terms of rider aids, it's a plethora of rider aids, and one of the unique advancements is this cornering race ABS, whereby when you apply the front brake, it applies the back brake. And it even continues to apply the back brake once you've let go of the front brake. So we tested this bike, as I said, in Vallelunga. We've got the full review and full technical details already online at 1000 PS. I went around about a second faster on this bike than I did the predecessor. It's an incredible bike to ride on track, and extremely privileged to have done so. Hopefully in the future we'll be bringing you a group test against the competition and against the previous model. This is an exciting new bike from Ducati that was just unveiled half an hour ago. This is the new Panigale V2. Quite interesting for Ducati. What they've done on this model is they've actually lost horsepower against the previous model, but they've lost a huge amount of weight. So in private testing, this compared to the previous model is around 0.2 or a 0.3 difference in terms of power. It's now still the familiar V2 platform, but the engine is considerably lighter, the bike is considerably lighter, and we've got an advancement in sophisticated rider aids. As like the Panigale V4, we've got the double-sided swinging arm as opposed to the single-sided swinging arm, and Ducati tell us this is more road-focused than ever before. This isn't like the old 748s where it was basically a race bike for the road. This is a road bike that will perform on track. Well, that's what they're telling us. The prices in the UK are going to start at £15,000 for the standard bike, £17,000 for the S. Obviously with the S, we get the manually adjustable all-in suspension. On the standard bike, we get the Marzocchi suspension. Hopefully, we'll get to ride this and the S very shortly. It's a bike that I'm really interested in riding, and I find it hugely interesting that Ducati haven't gone chasing power, which they could have easily done. Instead, they've chopped weight away, considerable weight away, and that lighter bike with less power is lapping nearly as quick as the previous bike. It was a bit of a no-brainer and an obvious choice for Ducati. Because they produced the new V2 Panigale, they had to produce a V2 Street Fighter. Both bikes actually share the same engine, the same power and the same torque. So it's 118 horsepower with 68.8 foot-pounds of torque. 2 models for the Street Fighter. We've got the standard bike, which will have Marzocchi on the front and Kaiba rear shock. Both will be fully adjustable. And then on this, which is the S model, it'll be all-ins front and back and fully adjustable. Prices for the base bike will be £14,000, and base price for the all-ins S model will be £16,000 in the UK. It's going to be interesting when we get to ride the bike because, again, it's not got the power of the previous bike, but it's considerably lighter. So it should be considerably more fun. That's the theory. I think it's a really attractive bike. They've gone for the double-sided swinging arm. I love the kind of underseat exhaust. I think it makes it look like the race bike, because that's what we're used to seeing in their World Superbike domination. But looking forward to riding this bike. Hopefully this will be kind of like half road, half track. Fingers crossed, Ducati send me the invite. It's not all sports bikes for Ducati for 2025, because this is the significantly updated Multistrada for 2025. So basically what Ducati have done is to get it Euro 5 Plus, and while it's been in the workshop, they've given it significant tweaks to improve it for 2025. So we've got a complete front end design, we've got radar technology, the engine is still 170 horsepower, but cleverly they've got a clever system that deactivates the back two cylinders at low RPM. So what that does, it improves fuel consumption, it improves fuel range, and it reduces the heat from the back two cylinders at low RPM. Obviously, if you request a lot of power, it kicks back onto all four. In terms of technology, we've got the radar, so we've got adaptive cruise control, blind spot detection, and we've also got a collision warning system. What that means is basically if you're not braking and the radar detects that something's about to hit you, you get a big massive warning on the dash to alert your attention, so you grab hold of the brakes. We've got the updated Skyhook semi-active suspension. What's quite interesting is that the front suspension now talks to the back suspension. So if the front goes over a bump, then it tells the back what's about to happen. It makes kind of obvious sense. And another one that makes obvious sense in the accessories, Ducati have fitted a fog light, which I think is the first time we've ever seen a fog light as an accessory on a production bike. We've already tested this bike at 1000 PS. We had a great day in the middle of Italy, mixed conditions, off-road and on-road. The next bike that we're going to look at is the Pikes Peak, which shares many similarities with this bike. So we've already looked at the new Multistrada for 2025, and this is the Multistrada, but in Pikes Peak format. It's essentially the same bike, the same V4 power, the same deactivation of the back cylinders, the same radar technology, but now we've got that all-important 17-inch front wheel, because it's more road-focused or track-focused. And when I say track-focused, yes, you can take this on track, because I've taken previous Pikes Peaks on track, and they are pretty impressive. Don't forget, there's still a 170 horsepower V4 in there. We've not ridden the Pikes Peak version yet. Looking forward to doing that early 2025. So obviously at Ducati we have to pop in and see the Scrambler range. We've got many new models. We've got the new Icon Dark, which makes out to be the cheapest Ducati Scrambler in the range. In Europe, that is under 10,000 euros. Then we've got the very familiar Icon, which is kind of like the entry-level bike above the new Icon Dark. We've got the Anniversary 62 model, which goes back to when Ducati first entered with the Scrambler in 1962. And then we can't miss the beautiful Ducati Scrambler Anniversary. This is the Rhizoma limited edition, available in different colours, and absolutely looks stunning and shows what you can do with a Scrambler. So it's not all about new sports bikes and adventure bikes. We've come over to see Arai to have a look at their new range for 2025. And because I'm really old, I like the fact that they've brought some of the retro bikes and helmets out. So we've got the Duan, we've got the Swans, we've got the Nakano is back. We're interested with the Arai on the chin bar, not on the front. There's going to be two Duan helmets, because obviously Mick Duan's son is racing in Formula 1, so there's a bit of a transfer and a bit of a change on that. So I'm literally like a kid in a sweet shop deciding which helmet to choose and which one I would go for. If I had my own way in my house, I'd have the full rack in the living room, but I don't think the wife will let me. But it'd be interesting to see which one you'd go for, something modern or something retro. So we've moved over to Suzuki, who've launched two new models. We've got the DRZ 400e and the DRZ 400 Supermoto. Now I'm old enough to remember the DRZ Supermoto the first time around, but this is completely new with a completely new single-cylinder engine. So Suzuki are quoting 38 horsepower, 8,000 RPM, 37 Newton meters at 6,500 RPM. We've got ride-by-wire technology, not big carbs like we had on the original. We've got traction control, we're going to have ABS, and we can turn off the ABS from the rear to have some Supermoto fun, which means we can lock the back and back it in. The weight is going to be 154 for the Supermoto and 151 for the... So this is the sister bike to the DRZ Supermoto that we've already seen, using the same 398 single-cylinder engine, but obviously more catered for off-road riding. So we've got more off-road bias tyres, more off-road bias wheels, and longer travel suspension. Should be interesting to see what this bike is like in the green lanes in the UK, and it'd be interesting to see where the bike is priced. Still with Suzuki, this is the GSX 1000, which has had a little tweak for 2025 because we've got the new TFT display, which puts it in line and partnership with the other bikes in this range. A really good, fun bike, a bike that I enjoy riding, and now we've got the new display. As we've said before, the Milan show is not all about motorcycles, it's about kit as well. So I've come over to see HJC to see two of their new lids for 2025. This is the new F100, which is a full 180 degrees flip over lid. We've got the conventional visor and then the sun visor further along inside. As I say, so this is with it down, this is with it up, 180 degrees. You got it available in white, we've got different graphics. We've also got a very lightweight carbon fiber, very cool looking flip over. So this is the second new lid from HJC. As the adventure market is forever growing, this is a brand new adventure lid from HJC for 2025. So we've got the Adventure Peak, we've got the conventional visor, we've got a sun visor which is internal, but what's really interesting is that we can obviously change the height of the visor, but we can change kind of like how far the visor comes out. So if you're wearing glasses, you can put the visor further out and further in. Very quality helmet, again, available in white, and it's going to be available in colour graphics. Just under 500 euros is the expected retail price. So we've moved over to see Can-Am, who are more familiar with three-wheel bikes and quads, but now they're kind of moving more into the electric market. So they've got two new models for 2025, the Pulse and the Origin. So this is the Pulse. They both share the same electric motor with a quoted 47 horsepower, but the Pulse is obviously more road focused. They're quoted a 0 to 60 time of 3.8 seconds and a city range of 160 kilometers. And then to my left is the more off-road focused Origin. Really interesting bike, lots of technical detail that we've done a separate video on this bike. So if you want more detail on both of these bikes, you can check out our social media channels and YouTube channels. But the Pulse is obviously more catered for off-road riding. City range is 145 kilometers and the quoted weight is 187 kilometers. There's some real interesting technical details on this bike, where the drivetrain is in the swinging arm. But if you want more details, check out our exclusive video on this bike already. So we've moved over to Kawasaki, who've been extremely busy and got a lot of new bikes for 2025. We'll start off with the new Versys 1100, which goes up from 1043cc to 1099cc, which means we go up to 135 horsepower from 120. Torque remaining the same at that strong 112 Newton meters. They've improved the details of the bike, they've improved the electronics package, but more importantly, if you want to get the big insight into what this bike is actually like to ride, we've already ridden this bike. So please check out our YouTube channel, click for the Versys 1100 and see the full review of the bike in action. For 2025, this is the new Kawasaki 1100 SX SE. What a beautiful looking bike, ideal for sports touring. So it gets a big engine upgrade, it gets improved electronics, improved TFT dash, and we're going to be riding this bike for 1000 PS in a few weeks' time. There's essentially two different variants. The top end model gets the all-in suspension and the Brembo brakes, and this is the model that we'll be testing in a few weeks' time. Check out our social media channels, don't forget to follow us at 1000 PS, and we'll get a full review of this bike very shortly. Probably something we wasn't expecting from Kawasaki, the new W230. It follows on from the W kind of retro historic range. I really like the W800. I've always liked the looks and style of that bike. And this little W230, I think it looks the part. I think it looks good. It's very small, it's very lightweight. Air-cooled single-cylinder engine, 18 horsepower, very lightweight, very low seat height. So we're just down at 745 on the seat height, which makes it incredibly low, just 143 kilograms. It's not something I was expecting from Kawasaki, but I kind of like it. It kind of goes against the competition from Enfield and the new Honda that we saw recently. But hopefully we're getting to ride this bike somewhere cool very shortly in 2025. Over at Kawasaki, and we've got to have a quick look at the new Z900. So it's going to be available in two formats, the base model and this, the SE, with its all-in rear shock and the big Brembo monoblocks. So what Kawasaki have done for 2025 is played around with the fueling to give it better fuel efficiency, and also, I assume, to get it through Euro 5 regulations. So we've got the same peak power of 124 horsepower and 97.8 Newton meters of torque. Big revisions to the electronics, the cornering ABS, the cornering traction control, which are all going to be changeable. Then we've got quick shifter, cruise control, and according to Kawasaki, improved handling through the chassis and the frame and the suspension. But the proof is in the pudding. We'll get to ride this bike in a few weeks' time at 1000 PS. Looking forward to getting on this one. Something we probably wasn't expecting from Kawasaki, this is the new Megura, which pays homage to the bike from 1964, the Kawasaki 250 Megura. So it's basically based on the W230 that we saw earlier on, single cylinder, more of a design exercise, but it does pay homage to the history of that Megura brand. It does look stunning in the flesh. It's not all about superbikes and 200 horsepower, which is why we've popped over to see New and their electric scooter brand. Now, they're more famous for electric scooters, and I think electric scooters do work. In the electric market, maybe not adventure bikes, maybe not sports bikes, but electric scooters, definitely. They actually loaned me one of the bikes a few months ago, which I thoroughly enjoyed as a little commuter, nipping in and out of York. But this year, they've got into something a little bit different, more of a conventional street bike than their conventional scooters. Again, be interesting to test ride the bike, see what the range is like, and see what the claimed performance is like. Here at EICMA, it's not all about motorcycles, but also accessories, which is why we've stopped by at SW-Motech to check out their new Legends gear for 2025. So this is their complete new retro range of luggage and accessories for 2025. Personally, I like the huge tail bag because I carry a lot of luggage on my naked bike. But as I said, it's not all about bikes and crash helmets. You've got to check out these stands too. We're still on the SW-Motech stand, but this is a real clever way of displaying what they do. From bar end mirrors to top cases, crash protection, foot pegs, top cases, hard luggage. A clever, unique way of displaying what they do, and something I quite like and I want in my living room. So the Yamaha R9 might be grabbing all the headlines, but the 125 and the R3 have both been updated for 2025. They all now follow a similar design pattern, so they're all part of the same family. So the 125 and the 3 get a big cosmetic makeover for 2025. Obviously both now are Euro 5 regulated, so it's Euro 5 plus, so there's been slight engine tweaks but not a massive overhaul. The 125 actually gets a better dash than the R3, believe it or not, even though it's priced obviously less than the R3. But both now follow that nice tradition of looks and style that carry it on to the R9. So we moved over to Yamaha to see the highly anticipated R9, a bike that's been on the cards for quite some time and a bike that's got us all excited at 1000 PS. We have done a few more technical videos on this bike, so if you want to find a little bit more information, please do check out our YouTube channels. But to give you a little bit more information, it's got the familiar CP3 engine that we've seen many times before. But now we're in a lightweight, rigid frame with a wet weight of 195 kilograms. So obviously with it being the R9, we've got full aerodynamic bodywork and those beautiful, nice winglets. KYB suspension, as you'd expect, and Brembo style EICMA brakes. Lean dependent rider aids, also as you would expect from the R9, and it's going to be into that interesting class of new bikes in this emerging kind of middleweight sports bike market. I believe we get to ride the bike in March, April, somewhere in Spain. I imagine it'll be Almeria, Cartagena, or another beautiful track like that. We'll get you the full report. But if you want more technical details on the R9, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel to see a full in-depth report on this bike. We've got to come over to visit the very popular and all-new MT-07 for 2025. So the familiar kind of engine layout, but they've reduced the weight by 1 kilogram to 183 kilograms. The engine is the same, but it's now ride-by-wire, so that gives us the option for multiple rider modes and traction control and an optional quick shifter. Sporty ergonomics according to Yamaha, so it's a little bit sporty with reposition bars and reposition pegs. There's new 41mm upside down updated suspension also to improve that sporty performance. Essentially Yamaha are just going to give it a little bit more of an edge, and we'll get to ride this bike very shortly. Got to come over and see the new Tenere from Yamaha for 2025. Again, we've done another video on this to see all the technical details. It's got the similar revisions to the MT-07 with the ride-by-wire fueling, and that allows revisions to the rider modes, rider aids and traction control and the quick shifter. The fuel tank's been moved further forward, and we've also got updated KYB suspension adjustable settings so we can tweak the suspension easier and it's more catered for its off-road capabilities. Hopefully we'll be getting to ride this bike pretty shortly. I know there's a few members of the 1000 PS team are really looking forward to riding this bike, so it probably won't be me on this one. For 2025, Yamaha have updated the 125 NMAX and Tech Max. Essentially, one is kind of the sporty sibling of the other. The other is the Tech Max, which is more comfortable, a little bit more palatious, and a little bit more priced. Both get the same updated looks and sophistication for 2025, and both get the updated engine, which is Euro 5+. The T-Max and the X-Max get big revisions for 2025. Yamaha's top-end best-selling scooter. So, power remains at 47.6 horsepower from the 560 twin, but they've updated the brakes with a new twin disc on the front. We've got a big 17-inch TFT display that is absolutely huge, which is stolen from the Tracer 9, and the Tex-Mac has more tech to it. Obviously, it now has an electronic windshield, cruise control, comfortable long-distance travel, and the tyre pressure monitoring system. So we've looked at crash helmets, we've looked at bikes, we've looked at luggage, but we've not looked at clothing. So we've come over to see EICMA, who are a Swiss manufacturer that we don't normally see in the UK, but they've got their new adventure range and their new sports bike range. The adventure range is really interesting. Loads of little unique ideas, and everything is airbag ready. So the product will actually expand when the airbag goes off, so you don't have to wear baggy clothing to accommodate the airbag. Neat little fasteners like magnetic pockets, so you don't have to use zip. The top to the bottom is all magnetic rather than that big awkward zip that you would normally have. Open vents, easy to operate, give you lots of breathing. And then should it rain, on this one particularly, you get a little throw-on shell, which is an extra €100. So we've jumped over to Moto Morini, and we've got to first come to the new 3.5 production bike, which is obviously using the name and the essence of the original 3.5, which was famous for its V-twin configuration back in 74, 75, if I remember rightly. But the new bike is equally a V-twin, 350cc, 31 newton meters of torque, 33-ish bhp, and it's just come under the scales at 165 kilograms. I think it looks absolutely stunning in the flesh, and you can see how it kind of resembles the original bike in kind of some ways. But looking forward to riding it. I think Moto Morini have got a real unique history and a real unique angle on with a modern day twist of a retro small capacity bike that we've seen already from other manufacturers, but this is something a little bit different. Another brand new bike from Moto Morini, and I think I pronounced this correctly, with the Old Trike, which is basically a play on words with the hike, obviously, because this is a 450 adventure bike, powered by a little 450 parallel twin, which they claim produces 44.2 horsepower and 44 newton meters of torque. What makes it a little bit unusual for the small capacity adventure bike is a big 21-inch front wheel. We've got big long travel Kayaba suspension, so it should be able to cope with some real rugged terrain. Obviously, being a 450 parallel twin, it's A2 compliant. Seat height is going to be at 847, and the weight is going to be 170 kilograms. On first impressions, it's kind of battling, I guess, with bikes like the CFMOTO 450. Very similar engine platform and very similar kind of ergonomics, but with a unique Moto Morini styling and twist. Behind me is the new Corsaro GT, which has been updated for 2025. Really interesting bike, which I guess it's kind of competing with bikes like Yamaha's Tracer 700 possibly. 17-inch front wheels, despite that adventure styling, big Brembo brakes, big TFT clocks, big styling, and unique Moto Morini character. It'd be interesting we get this bike not only to ride it, but to put it against the competition. So I've already seen the new 3.5 from Moto Morini, and they've basically taken that engine and some of the technology and put it in the new Rumble, which is basically a V-twin 3.5 custom kind of cruiser, but of an A2 category. So it'll be interesting when we get to ride this bike, because there's not a lot of competition in that cruiser market for A2 licenses. So let's see how it goes when we get to ride it. So you're probably familiar with the Brembo Stylema caliper, which we've seen on multiple sports bikes throughout the last few years. But the new caliper from Brembo is the new high pure caliper that we saw on the Panigale V4S that I've tested a few times already. It's essentially a little bit lighter than the Stylema caliper, and it's better at getting rid of the heat in the high pure. When we tested the bike in Vallelunga with Ducati, there was no brake fade, excellent brakes, really sharp, got rid of the heat. So we're going to see more high pure taken over from the Stylema on bikes as we move from 25 into 26. While we're over at Brembo, we're just going to check out their new packages for 2025. So these are 2 packs that you buy for your Supersport bikes. These are aimed for Supersport. So you've got the Pro and the Pro Plus. The discs are 338 millimeters, and we've got slightly different variation in the calipers. The little teeth, they're not for traction control or ABS, that's actually to assist cooling. But if you want the ultimate braking, let me show you some MotoGP brakes. So we've seen the new technical packs that are available for your Supersport bike, but if you want to see some ultimate brakes, these are the new 2025 MotoGP calipers. On the other side is the 24 calipers, but for 25, the calipers get a little bit longer, a little bit bigger, improved ventilation, which the teams will be testing to see if they want to try this or the previous 24 caliper. So that's it, we're leaving Brembo. Interesting stand to compare MotoGP brakes to the brakes that you can actually buy. But we can't leave Brembo without a little bit of news, and that's their acquisition of Öhlins, which is kind of just been launched and will be completed by January, February next year. It seems to be like the perfect synergy, to be fair, because Brembo are synonymous with racing, Öhlins are synonymous with racing. Put the two together and it should work. So it's going to be interesting at EICMA 2025 when we see Brembo and Öhlins together on the same stand. So I've come over to Zontes to check out their new 3-cylinder 700cc adventure bike. Makes it very unique to see a 3-cylinder 700cc, but it's also got an aluminium alloy twin frame, Marzocchi suspension front and back, big 22 large litre fuel capacity, proper Michelin rubber, and the tubeless spoked rims front and back. In terms of power, what are they quoting? 95.2 horsepower from this unique 3-cylinder 700cc platform and 75 newton meters of torque at 7,500 RPM. The bike is already available in China, but it's looking to come to Europe in early 2025. So, something interesting, something slightly unusual, but something I actually want to ride. So I want to know what a 3-cylinder 700cc bike sounds like. Looking forward to hearing it and riding it. That's it for 2024 at EICMA. 45,000 steps, 2 days. It's been epic, and it's so great to see the industry buzzing and see so many new bikes. I've already got a list of what bikes that I want to be test riding shortly for 1,000 PS. But it's not just about 2025 bikes. There's 26 and 27. We've seen prototypes and a little tease of what to expect in future years. But thanks for watching this epic video. I hope you appreciate the efforts. If you've got any questions or comments, file them below. Give us a click and subscribe. And don't forget to like, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.